Welcome back to the Panic Room, everyone, and to another book review today. This is a heavy one today, but my God, was it great. So, today we're going to be talking about Brain Drips Yellow by Moor. And yes, that's the actual author's name, Moor. So I tripped over this book while I was on Amazon. You guys know when you were looking on Amazon and you go down to the bottom, it's like, you may like this. And I was like, Brain Drips Yellow. And when I read the premise, I had to read it. It was just absolutely out there. It sounded weird and I wanted to read it. And oh my God, was I right. So of course, no spoilers. And this is one of those books that's kind of hard to talk about, but I hope I can get through to you guys how much I enjoyed this book and why I think it is an important book to read. Now, before we begin, if you do not like the idea of challenging your faith or the idea of twisting a viewpoint of, let's say, death, then this might not be the book for you. Because it asks questions that if you were raised in, let's say, a Christian home, or like in our book, our character, a Catholic home, it asks questions and it presents things that are going to be in direct opposition in some cases, but it does so, to me, in a way that is trying to make you think, is trying to make you go down paths that maybe you haven't went down before. And I am usually all for that because I think it makes you a better person to kind of travel these paths and to kind of hit these walls of your own limits. And really, that leads me into the thing that made me fall in love with this book. To me, this book really presents this idea of how when you label something, no matter what it is, you are placing a limitation on that thing. And this book really goes down the road of kind of like an American Beauty, if you've ever seen that movie. You have this man who he's doing everything he's supposed to. He goes to college, he gets married, he has a kid, he has a good job. But if you take one step back from his life, you can really see how there are cracks happening. And I love that in this book, they are kind of always saying like, okay, you don't want to challenge the norm. You don't want to step outside of the box. This is what you're supposed to do. Our character is even fond of saying like, bills have to be paid. You got to go to work, and how many times have we done that? I mean, I know I'm not the only one. Oh, you got to go do this. You got to go do that. This is just the norm. This is how things roll. And the book really is great about showing you how this constant, just mundane, everyday kind of activity that this man has to do breaks him. And yes, it kind of goes off the rails because he meets a certain individual, at least we think he does, and he goes off on these almost psychedelic, almost like drug trips, but you see how everything comes back together because it's really just showing him like, you're killing yourself. You have no choice in this matter. You are killing yourself because you are fitting into this mold that you were never meant to fit into. You are not challenging anything. You are dying inside because your creativity, your uniqueness is gone. You are so happy with the status quo that you don't want to go beyond that. You have no desire to go beyond that. And you see that mirrored in this character because he even starts to feel like he's a shell. Like, he loves his daughter, but he doesn't have this like overwhelming love for her that he feels like a father should have. He likes his wife, but he knows that things are bad between them because there's no passion there. And he hates his job because this is set a number of years in the future, not terribly far. But his job has this whole deal about like cemeteries, and I'm not going to tell you what they do, but he's terrified of death. Terrified of it because he doesn't like the idea of nothingness. And it's kind of left up to you as to which one you think is worse. This nothingness of death, this like vast expanse of the unknown, or this nothingness of a life unlived, with no challenges, with no passion, with no nothing. And it's beautifully done. It's beautifully done. I can see where if you are sensitive to having certain things that you might have been raised with challenged, that perhaps this isn't going to be for you because it goes there. It talks about what is God. It talks about, the hold that faith has over a person. And I'm going to go off the rails here just a little bit because you guys know I do love religion. I usually try to keep this out of a lot of my reviews, but there's a concept that this book kind of touched on that I thought was really interesting that I haven't seen done outside of theological texts in my personal experience. But there's this whole idea, and I'm not going to go into it because we could be here all day, but it's this idea of if you meet the Buddha, you're supposed to kill him. yeah, if you want to know more about it, Google it. It's a pretty interesting concept, but that is touched on in this book a little bit about the idea of meeting God and what you do in a situation like that. And it's very negative. It does not take a bright look at life. It does not take a bright look at religion or any kind of construct, you know, corporate America, any of that. It doesn't take a good viewpoint. It is very depressing. This is not a book that is going to make you feel good. As a matter of fact, if you struggle with things like this, if you struggle with the idea of not making a difference, that your life doesn't mean anything, perhaps this isn't the book for you, because it really might depress you. Not gonna lie, it might depress you. There were points in this that I was like, damn! But, and I've said this in countless other reviews, it is beautiful. The way it is written, the challenges that it brings up, the thoughts that it makes you think are just absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. There are passages in this, and I thought about reading them. I don't want to, because I don't want to ruin it for you. There are passages in this book that took my breath away with how beautiful they were. This idea of man going from this primal beast to being confined to an office or a cubicle or what have you. And that journey and that effect on the human spirit, it's something that I've always been interested in. It's something that I've experienced, and I'm sure a number of you have too. And I really think that that alone will resonate with a lot of readers, but all I'm telling you is that if you pick this up, strap in, because it might challenge some of the beliefs that you have been raised with, especially religion. So if that's not your bag, if you don't want to face that, that's cool. I understand that. So, but keep that in mind. I will say that this is one of those books that I'm going to probably continually talk about and recommend. That's how deeply it hit me, because I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. Easily one of the most beautiful books I've ever read, and probably one of the most depressing. So guys, that is it. I know this was a strange one, and I know I can't give you a whole lot, because this is one of those books where the strangeness needs to be experienced, but I really do hope that some of you give this book a chance. It is it's something. It is something. I really loved it, and I know there's a few of you out there that would enjoy this. Like I said, it's heavy, it's depressing. Now, there are some definite horror parts in this. You know, I didn't touch on those because that's not really what the book's focuses on. But some of these trips that this guy goes on, and I'm calling them trips for lack of a better word, are pretty horrific. There's one that has to do with an old lady in a sewing machine that I was like, oh my God, why have they not made that into a movie yet? Like, that whole scene, I mean, like, just the way it was played out, like, it just seemed like something that would have been in a horror movie. I loved it. It was so good. But again, that's not really where, to me, the horror lies. The horror lies in this idea of self-contemplation. And guys, if you read it, please, please, please come back and let me know, because this is one that I would love to talk to someone else about. So if you do give this book a chance, please hit me up, DM me something, let me know what you think. Let's talk about it. And guys, of course, if you like this, please hit like and subscribe. It would really help me out. And until next time, bye for now.